Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Again, I hope everyone's well and having an absolutely fantastic day. I like how I go from really happy intros and then start talking about serious stuff. Off the back of my past few videos where I talk about my experiences of mental health, I also think it's important to talk about my current state of mental health. And that sounds very egotistical, but it's also important to appreciate who we are in the current moment. Because ultimately we are shaped through our past experiences, positive or negative, and everything I've gone through has led me to who I am today, and that person is someone I'm proud of, actually. I consider myself an emotional person or a sensitive person, if you want to call it that, and that is apparently somewhat of a rarity with men, and that's because of so many different factors. Obviously there is genetic factors, but there's also so many social constructs getting in the way of men being emotional and being sensitive, or at least being open about it. There are so many negative correlations with the word emotional and sensitive, especially when it comes to men, and I just wanted to talk about it really and sort of open up the conversation, because there is this need for a gradual and in-depth conversation about emotions and men. Now obviously everyone has emotional responses to things. I'm not claiming that I'm different to everyone. I just think emotional people, like myself for example, we just experience a lot more deeply, and they actually shape a lot of who I am and my decisions and what I want to do with my life. And my emotional and affective responses may be more sort of severe than other people and more extreme, and that leads to pros and cons. I do get upset easily, and when I get upset I feel quite upset. I do cry and I do miss people a lot, and I do feel left out some of the time, but then I also feel so much affection for people around me, and the good times are really good times, and it's also led to me wanting to help other people, because I understand when people get upset and I understand that people need help. I wouldn't have made this YouTube channel if I didn't understand what people are going through. My emotions, whilst they have made me feel a bit down and they've put me through some tough times, it's also led me to this point, and this point I'm happy in myself, and I will happily say I'm emotional and I'm happily sensitive about lots of different things, and that's okay, and that's not something we need to continue to sort of ignore in society, that men can get just as upset as women can. I think I've always been sort of an emotional person. My emotions have always being able to get the better of me, and it's not something that I think I should necessarily fight against. I think it's just something I need to learn to cope with. I was used to fight against the fact that I was an emotional and a sensitive person, and it was actually a large part of my counselling experience was accepting this as a fact, that I will get upset maybe easier than other people, and I will feel these things a lot more deeply, and they will shape my life a lot more, and it's not something I need to be ashamed of or humiliated of. There's so many negative connotations when you talk about emotions in men, and how they're laughed at, or how you're called several different insults for showing your emotions, and it's something we need to start working against. It took me a long time to get to a point where I proudly say I'm an emotional person, because there is a lot of sort of stigma against it, and it is a huge social norm where men are supposed to not show their emotions and not be open with their emotions, and that's something that takes a while to fight against, because it's something that's bred into us. I always used to fight against my emotions and deny the fact that I was this emotional person, and that's because it is so reinforced in society, whether it's conscious or subconscious, that men aren't supposed to be emotional, and it makes us look weak if we show our emotions, and this really isn't the case, and it's mind-blowing to me that this is still reinforced in society. And my parents were always emotional people, and they were always open and always encouraging you to express your emotions, and I was fortunate enough to be grown in that kind of household, but I still felt an urge to hide how I felt, and that just shows how strongly our society, whether it's through education or social media, enforces the fact that men shouldn't be emotional. Unfortunately, there is a movement, and there is clearly this change happening in society where we're starting to feel more open, but there's still a lot we can do, because I'm now at a place where I accept my emotions and I express them when I feel the need to, or when it's positive for me to do so, and that wasn't always the case, and it took me a lot of time, and it took me a lot of reflection and maturing to get to this point. And if we were able to start encouraging this within our lives from a younger age or to younger people, I wouldn't have had to go through that. I guess the aim of this video was to encourage the fact that regardless of whether you're male or female, you don't have to deny your emotions. You need to give yourself time to accept how you feel, to process how you feel and express it. Emotional experiences ultimately shape us to who we will become in the future. They're such a huge influential part in what drives us, in what motivates us, in what we want to achieve with our life. And the fact that we feel the need to hide it is really an issue. They do cause what seems to be problems and what seems to be sort of burdens on our life, but they can be incredible things if we do process them and if we do give time to appreciate them, because they can be used for learning or they can be used to help other people. We need to stop enforcing that men should hide their emotions. It's an incredibly unhealthy social norm that we are starting to change, but it needs to be continuous. It needs to be actually fulfilled by people who believe in it, because it's all well and good posting about it, but following through with it is what we need to start doing. Men need support as much as women do. We need a feeling of belonging and relatedness just as much as women do. And unless we start publicly expressing at least some emotion other than the good times, we can't feel connected with others when we feel down, because how am I supposed to know if someone else is having a really rough time when I am, if they're not expressing it? I remember a huge part of when I was struggling with my mental health was that I felt no one else was struggling at all. Everyone else was having a great time and everyone else was having a great life. And this wasn't the case. I'm not ignorant to that, but that's what it feels like, because we're not allowed to express it. And any time you express your emotions, especially in the atmosphere of a boys' school, you're shot down and you're classed with all these different insults because you've expressed yourself. These social constructs get in the way of so many men expressing themselves and processing their emotions and ultimately leading a happier life, because there's negative connotations with being upset and being emotional as a man. Men's mental health isn't something that can be sort of summarized in no matter how long this video is. It's something that needs to be constantly encouraged and constantly conversed about and just constantly pushed upon, especially younger men, because they're the ones that need to learn it from a young age, because those teenage years are rough. And if we were able to create an environment in which anyone, especially men, are able to express their emotions, it can lead to so much healthier and happier people. Being sensitive or being emotional isn't a weakness, nor are emotions themselves. They are reactions to things going on around us that are natural. And maybe some people experience them more deeply or more intensely, and maybe some don't. It doesn't mean one's better than the other, it's just a different response. My emotions are a core part of my identity, and they have led to who I am today, and I am proud of who I am today. I've made mistakes in the past. I'm not denying that, but now I know that my intentions are good, and that's because I've given myself time to process my emotions and I utilise them. But if I was in a place where I had to keep denying them, I never would have got help in the first place, and I never would have helped other people with their emotions. It doesn't make you weak and it doesn't make you less of a man. If anything, I think it's brave, an achievement to be open about your emotions. With all these social norms going around, it's an achievement to do this. Facing your emotions alone can lead to so many negative consequences, and that can be seen with the inequalities in mental health issues or the increase in male suicides. We need to start talking about men's mental health within society. We need to open that conversation, encourage that conversation, because that will lead to so many benefits within society, not just for men, but for women as well. And that starts with us. This generation, clearly there is a change in what we view as acceptable, and that is good, that is brilliant, and we need to start pushing this and we need to start encouraging this, because we can educate the past generation and we can bring up the future generations in a way which is more accepting and healthier and happier. I feel like I need some sort of dramatic statement to finish this, because I've kind of gone a bit woof, you know, but I hope everyone enjoyed, basically. That's me. See you later.